are coordinates on this map where reality begins to blur, and the world, as you know it, simply ceases to make sense. Across the colossal expanse of our planet, humanity has dared to etch lines of steel through territories that nature once guarded with a fierce, These are not merely paths, they are whispers of defiance carved into the very skeleton of the earth. Spanning from the driest red sands to the highest, most hollow peaks, you will feel the strange, magnetic pull of the unknown, a haunting mix of chilling mystery and a quiet, breathtaking peace that only exists on the edge of the void. "29 impossible journeys await, where the iron meets the infinite. The first step into the unreachable begins right now." Chaka, Salt Lake, China. Imagine a mirror that stretches to the very edge of time, where the boundary between the heavens and the earth simply evaporates. In the heart of the Qinghai Highlands, at 10,170 feet above sea level, lies a narrow-gauge path laid as if by a phantom. These 24-inch rails originated as a vital vein for salt mining in the 1950s, but today, they lead into a silent, white void. As the train moves, you aren't just riding a rail, you are gliding across the surface of a liquid sky, suspended between clouds above and clouds below. It is a haunting, beautiful piece that feels as though you are detaching from the physical world entirely. This was man's daring gamble, to pull wealth from a place that looks exactly like the afterlife. But beware of the hidden bite in this dreamscape, as the salt is so concentrated that it will dissolve your electronics almost instantly if you drop them. Even more unsettling is that the very ground is shifting and the tracks are slowly disappearing as the lakebed moves under the weight of the infinite water. Dudhsagar Falls, India. Sometimes, the most breathtaking sights are born from the most violent collisions. On the border between Goa and Karnataka, a steel line cuts a jagged, defiant path directly through the center of a 1,000-foot waterfall. This section of the legendary Konkan Railway was once deemed a geographical impossibility, requiring thousands of cubic meters of protective mesh just to hold the crumbling mountain in place. As the train crosses the bridge, the roar of the water becomes a physical weight on your chest. You don't just witness the falls. The sea of milk erupts in a blinding, white spray that coats the windows while the entire structure trembles beneath you. It is a sensory overload, a moment where heavy human industry meets the raw, unbridled fury of the tropical jungle. In the heart of the monsoon, This train is often the only machine left standing while the world around it washes away in the flood. Yet, history whispers a dark warning, as landslides in this gorge have been known to swallow entire rail cars in a matter of heartbeats. Gornergrat Railway, Switzerland. Precision is the only thing keeping you from the abyss in the dead zone of the Swiss Alps. Climbing upward from Zermatt, the Gornergrat Railway stands as Europe's highest open-air cog system, a feat realized in 1898 to conquer the indomitable shadow of the Matterhorn. Rising to a peak of 10,130 feet at a staggering 20% incline. The air turns thin and brittle enough to bite. Within minutes, the temperature plummets by 20 degrees, and you find yourself staring at 29 separate peaks that pierce the clouds at over 13,000 feet. It is a majestic, dizzying ascent that makes your stomach turn as the ground falls away beneath your seat. This is the ultimate victory of human calculation over a landscape that was never meant to be settled by man. Interestingly, the train actually transforms into a power plant on the way down, generating electricity as it fights against the pull of gravity. But when the whiteout storms arrive, the beauty vanishes, and the driver must navigate these jagged cliffs using nothing but pure, practiced memory. Landwasser Viaduct, Switzerland. There is a bridge hidden in the Graubünden Mountains that feels like a glitch in architectural logic. The Landwasser Viaduct, completed in 1901 with no scaffolding and only raw human grit, stands 213 feet high. Its most unsettling feature is a sharp curve with a radius of 328 feet that leads directly into a vertical rock face. From the rear car, you can watch the engine lean precariously over the abyss before it is suddenly swallowed by the dark, a hungry mouth of a tunnel. There is no flat ground here, only a leap of faith into the solid stone. It is a bridge to nowhere that somehow serves as a vital artery for the entire region. The entire structure was built using limestone quarried right from the mountain, making the bridge a literal, skeletal extension of the landscape itself. Remarkably, it has stood for over 120 years without a single major renovation, proving that when we build with the earth instead of against it, the results can outlast empires. We have traveled over seas of salt, through the heart of thunderous waterfalls, and across bridges that vanish into solid rock. These 29 journeys are more than just tracks and ties. They are the stories of our refusal to accept the word impossible. Whether it is the thin air of the Andes or the black dust of the Sahara, these railways remind us that the world is still a vast, mysterious place waiting to be felt. The question remains, would you dare to step onto the platform? Or is the view from here enough? Let the mystery linger as you plan your next escape into the unknown. Until the next whistle blows, keep your eyes on the horizon. Thank you for venturing to the edge with us today. Tren a las Nubes, Argentina. In the staggering heights of the Salta province, the human body begins to struggle against the very air it breathes. This is the train to the clouds, an engineering marvel designed by an American visionary named Richard Morey in the 1920s to conquer the unforgiving Andes. Rising to an incredible 13,845 feet above the sea, the journey is so extreme that the train must carry a dedicated medical car stocked with oxygen tanks for struggling passengers. As you reach the La Polverilla Viaduct, a 1,764-ton steel giant, the pounding in your temples is replaced by a sense of floating through a thin, blue Andean dream. This is more than a railroad. It is a heavy iron reach for the heavens themselves. At the highest point, a surreal ceremony unfolds as the national anthem plays while passengers gasp for breath in the thin atmosphere. And the massive steel bridge actually expands and contracts by several inches every single day, depending on the intensity of the mountain sun. Great Salt Lake Causeway, USA. There is a straight, relentless line in northern Utah that has effectively split a massive body of water into two different worlds. Known as the Great Salt Lake Causeway, this 20-mile stretch of track feels like a giant needle stitching the earth together. What began as a wooden trestle in 1904 was eventually filled with 36 million cubic meters of rock to support the weight of modern freight. From the window, the contrast is jarring and beautiful. To your left, the water is a deep, familiar blue, while to your right, it transforms into a surreal, toxic shade of pink. This brutal intervention in the landscape was born from a desperate need for efficiency, forever altering the lake's chemistry because the salt concentration has become so extreme on one side, nothing but specialized shrimp and algae can survive in the brine. And the weight of the massive rock causeway has actually caused the lake bed to sink several feet deeper into the earth over the last century. White Pass and Yukon Route, USA, Canada. Born from the desperate madness of the 1898 Klondike Gold Rush, this railway is a haunting monument to greed and grit. Workers use nothing but black powder and hand shovels to blast through solid granite walls, creating a path that climbs 3,000 feet in only 20 miles. As the train crawls over the edge of Dead Horse Gulch, you stand on the open platform and feel the freezing Alaskan air bite into your lungs. Below you lies a bottomless abyss, where thousands of pack animals perished in their search for gold. A grim reminder of the price we pay for shiny things. This journey is so geographically unique that you are required to present a passport at the summit just to complete the trip between the United States and Canada. Despite the passage of over a century, the precarious wooden trestles you cross are still the original 19th century designs, creaking under the weight of the modern world. Nanjing Metro Line S9, China. Stepping onto the Nanjing Metro Line S9 feels less like a commute and more like a high-speed flight into a science fiction future. As the train accelerates to 75 miles per hour, it crosses the vast Shiju Lake on a bridge, nearly 8 miles long. The experience quickly becomes a pale, white blur, where the speed and the perfect reflection of the water create a hypnotic, minimalist dreamscape that feels completely detached from reality. This is the ultimate expression of the modern glass and steel era, where sheer efficiency has replaced the struggle of the past. It is a clean, quiet, and almost eerie experience that challenges your sense of motion and distance. If the wind speed on the lake reaches 50 miles per hour, the entire line is shut down instantly for safety. And many first-time passengers report a strange sensation of motion sickness caused by the total lack of visible land during the crossing. Pilatus Railway, Switzerland. There is a jagged slope in the Swiss Alps that feels less like a railway and more like a direct act of defiance against the Earth's gravity. Climbing the brutal face of Mount Pilatus, this route holds the title of the steepest cogwheel railway on the planet, boasting a maximum grade of 48%. Engineers had to invent an entirely new mechanical language called the locker rack system because every other design simply failed to grip the rock. As the bright red car begins its ascent, you don't feel like you are rolling. You feel the heavy weight of your own body being pushed deep into your seat as the train winches itself up a near vertical wall. It is a terrifyingly steep journey that proves the word impossible is not found in the Swiss dictionary. The mechanical gears are designed with such incredible strength that they could actually lift the entire weight of the train even if the brakes were to fail. And because of the extreme risk of avalanches and deep snow, the line only wakes up from its winter sleep to run during the summer months. Mount Washington Cog Railway, USA. Long before the age of modern computers, a group of 19th century visionaries decided to drive a steam locomotive directly toward the clouds in New Hampshire. Opened in 1869, the Mount Washington Cog Railway was the very first of its kind. Featuring a legendary timber section known as Jacob's Ladder, this wooden bridge climbs at an aggressive 37% angle, creating a bizarre interior environment where passengers in the front of the car sit a full 14 feet higher than those in the back. The experience is a raw, sensory trip through time, filled with the thick scent of coal smoke and the rhythmic, metallic clack of gears fighting for every inch of the 3-mile track. It is the ultimate monument to the American can-do spirit of the industrial age. A machine that turned a mountain into a staircase, locals once mocked the project by calling it the Railway to the Moon because the idea seemed so far-fetched. And even on a clear day, you must be prepared for the summit, which frequently records some of the most violent and unpredictable weather on the entire planet. Optics Valley Suspension Railway, China. Floating silently through the skyline of Wuhan, there is a ghost in the machine that represents the next eerie chapter of human travel. The Optics Valley Suspension Railway is the first of its kind in China, featuring an upside-down design where the train hangs from a monorail with a transparent glass floor. Operating at a top speed of 37 miles per hour with 0 human staff on board. The ride offers a chillingly peaceful experience as you glide over the city. Looking down between your feet, you can watch cars and pedestrians passing 50 feet below, while the only sound you hear is the low, magnetic hum of the propulsion system. It is a total surrender of human control to an artificial intelligence that manages every second of the journey. This futuristic dreamscape comes with a high-altitude risk, as a total power failure would leave passengers suspended in a glass box high above the ground with no escape. And the onboard AI is actually programmed to simulate a slight shaking motion just to make the ride feel more natural to the human passengers inside. Goteik Viaduct, Myanmar. Deep in the emerald heart of Myanmar, there is a steel spiderweb that seems to float over a 335-foot abyss. Completed in the year 1900 by the Pennsylvania Steel Company, the Goteik Viaduct remains a haunting relic of a colonial empire, standing silent in a modern jungle. As the heavy train reaches the edge, it slows to a ghostly crawl, and the entire structure begins to groan under the massive weight. Looking through the gaps in the rusted steel floor, you can see the jungle canopy hundreds of feet below, and it feels as though the bridge itself is holding its breath to keep from falling. It is a moment of pure, suspended tension, where the mechanical world feels incredibly fragile against the vastness of nature. Shockingly, not a single one of the original rivets has been replaced in many decades. And the train moves at such a glacial pace that some passengers have been known to jump off and walk beside it just for the thrill. Beipanjiang Railway Bridge, China. High in the swirling mists of Guizhou Province stands an arch so massive it effectively swallowed an entire gorge, standing at a height equal to a 90-story skyscraper. The Beipanjiang Railway Bridge was a crowning milestone for China's high-altitude infrastructure when it opened in 2001. Measuring 918 feet from the tracks to the river below, the crossing is famously known as the high jump. For a few heart-stopping seconds, the ground simply disappears, and you feel as though you are hurtling through open space at nearly 100 miles per hour, while the legendary mountain winds howl against the glass. This is engineering used as a weapon to humiliate the terrain, turning a lethal gap into a smooth, high-speed transit. The entire arch is constructed from concrete-filled steel tubes to provide what engineers call infinite load capacity, and the structure is so cavernous that you could comfortably fit the Statue of Liberty beneath its span 3 times over. Renzihei Bridge, China. Hidden within a forbidden valley in Yunnan province is a bridge that looks like a giant metal skeleton holding two mountains apart. Completed in 1908, the Renzihei Bridge is a masterpiece of French engineering at its most insane, designed without a single supporting pillar in the center. Instead, the entire structure is held up by two massive steel arms in a shape resembling the Chinese character for human. Over 20,000 rivets were hammered in by hand by workers who were suspended over the dark abyss by nothing but ropes. The result is an industrial ballet where the engineering looks as delicate as lace but carries thousands of tons of heavy cargo every single day. It is a profound reminder of the bridge as an extension of the human body, and this incredible feat was achieved using only hand tools and manual labor in a location so remote that even today, there is almost no road access to the valley floor. Malleco Viaduct, Chile. In the rugged heart of central Chile, there is a metallic skeleton that once held the crown as the tallest railway bridge on the planet. Fabricated in France in 1890, with many historians whispering that Gustave Eiffel himself had a hand in the design, the structure was shipped across the sea to be bolted together in the wild Chilean terrain. Spanning 1,142 feet. The bridge is a dizzying lattice of steel that seems to shudder when the fierce mountain winds begin to howl. For every passenger who stares out the window into the 335-foot drop, the journey is a grueling psychological test. As you can feel, the entire massive frame vibrate beneath the weight of the wheels. This bridge represents the grand 19th century dream of an Earth stitched together by iron rails, conquering even the most jagged valleys. To reach these incredible heights, engineers relied on four massive steel towers that look like industrial cathedrals. And even as a protected national monument, it remains strong enough to carry heavy freight trains through the valley every single day. Ribblehead Viaduct, UK. Standing defiant against the windswept moors of North Yorkshire is the Ribblehead Viaduct, a Victorian masterpiece that was quite literally built on the bones of the men who made it. Beginning in 1870, a small army of over 2,300 workers known as navvies lived in desolate shantytowns on the moor, just to lay the 1.5 million bricks required for the structure. Crossing the marshy expanse of the Batty Moss during a gale is an experience of raw, heavy stability, while the wind slams against the train carriages with terrifying force. The 24 massive stone arches refuse to budge a single inch. It is a haunting monument to the brutal cost of industrial progress, where human lives were often the primary currency of the era. While many assume labor accidents were the main killer, hundreds of workers actually perished from smallpox outbreaks in the crowded camps. And this iconic structure was once so close to being demolished to save money that only a massive public outcry kept the wrecking balls at bay. Curitiba-Paranagua, Brazil. In the emerald shadows of Brazil's Serra do Mar, There is a descent so treacherous, it was once labeled a suicide mission. When the project began in 1880, leading European experts swore it could never be built. Yet today it drops travelers 3,000 feet through 14 dark tunnels in just a few hours. This isn't just a commute, it is a high-speed plunge through a living wall of granite and vines where the air is thick with humidity. And the tracks are perpetually slick with tropical moss. You feel the abyss lurking just 5 inches from the wheels at all times, making every turn a heart-stopping gamble. It is a stunning example of how a route once feared as a death sentence has evolved into a global tourism treasure. Historically, the danger was so present that officials used to carry empty coffins on every single trip just in case of a disaster. And the rainforest fog is frequently so dense that the engineer at the front of the train cannot even see the track ahead of him. Durango and Silverton, high in the Colorado Rockies. The spirit of the Wild West still breathes through the soot and steam of the Durango and Silverton line. Built in 1882 to haul fortunes in silver and gold from the San Juan Mountains. This narrow-gauge wonder runs on a track only 36 inches wide, perched precariously on a hand-cut rock shelf. As the massive 113-ton locomotives groan through the Highline section, there is absolutely no barrier between the carriage and a 400-foot drop into the churning Animas River below. Ash and hot cinders fly into your hair, while the sound of grinding metal echoes off the canyon walls in an experience that is as dirty as it is exhilarating. This is a living museum of human stubbornness, a place where we refuse to let the mountains stop our search for wealth. To this day, the line still runs on authentic coal-fired engines that require constant manual labor to maintain, and the danger remains real, as even a single small rockfall from the cliffs above could easily push the entire train off its narrow perch and into the depths. Daju Cliffside Train, China. There is a gorge in Asia where the concept of solid ground simply ceases to exist. The Daju Cliffside train features a route where more than 1/3 of the entire track is not laid on the earth, but is instead bolted directly into 90-degree cliff faces using massive steel brackets. At an elevation of nearly 4,000 feet, looking out the window reveals nothing but pure space and a drop that seems to go on forever. It is an extreme test of faith in modern civil engineering, originally carved into these vertical walls for the sake of mineral extraction in terrain that should have been impossible to tame. By suspending heavy rail cars on what is essentially a metal shelf, this project defies our most basic instincts about where a vehicle belongs. Despite the dizzying height and industrial purpose, the system operates on 100% electric power for a strangely smooth and quiet ride. And it is often swallowed by thick cloud banks that leave you feeling like a ghost floating through a white, silent world. Tianshan Canyon, China. Deep within the Kuka section of the Tianshan Mountains, there is a narrow passage where the earth itself seems to be made of brittle, red dust. This vital coal route winds through a canyon of crumbling sandstone that behaves more like a dry biscuit than solid rock. As thousands of tons of heavy freight groan through the pass, the walls of the canyon close in so tightly that you can almost reach out and touch the ancient geology. The intense vibration of the heavy diesel engines causes a constant rain of pebbles to fall from the cliffs above, creating a haunting sensation that the mountain is watching and reacting to your every move. It is a profound study in the fragility of human steel against the unstable whims of the earth. Because the geology is so precarious, this entire section only operates for 4 to 5 months out of the year. And a single heavy rainstorm can actually liquefy the canyon walls, turning the entire route into a river of red mud. Pamban Bridge, India. Imagine a journey where the tracks beneath you vanish into a vast, salt-stained horizon. The Pamban Bridge, completed in 1914 as India's first sea bridge, carries travelers over the churning waters of the Indian Ocean to the holy island of Rameswaram. For nearly 1.4 miles. There is no land in sight, only a relentless blue expanse in every direction. The train moves at a cautious 10 kilometers per hour, allowing you to feel every shudder of the century-old steel as the ocean winds try to push the carriages off their rusted perch. It is a humbling experience that makes you feel incredibly small against the power of the sea. This engineering miracle serves as a thin, metallic thread connecting a sacred place to the modern world. However, the sea is a cruel master, as a massive cyclone actually blew an entire passenger train into the waves here in 1964. And the structure is so prone to rust that workers must manually grease the bridge by hand every single day to keep the salt from eating the iron alive. Hotan-Ruoqiang Railway, China. To travel the Hotan-Ruoqiang Railway is to witness a desperate war between human ingenuity and the desert of death. This loop around the Taklamakan Desert is shielded by a great green wall of 50 million trees, specifically planted to stop shifting dunes from burying the tracks. For 329 miles, the train cuts through a zone of constant sandstorms where the outside world is obscured by a wall of grit rising 50 feet high. Inside the train, you are in a sterile, climate-controlled capsule, watching a landscape that feels more like the surface of a distant planet than anything found on Earth. It is a monumental attempt to domesticate one of the most hostile environments on the planet. The survival of this entire ecosystem is managed by an advanced artificial intelligence that controls the underground irrigation, and the desert winds are so violent that a single storm can sandblast the paint right off the side of the train cars. FCAB Chile, Bolivia, in the high, airless reaches of the Atacama Desert. There is a railway that defines the very meaning of isolation. The Antofagasta and Bolivia Railway, or FCAB, stretches for hundreds of miles through a landscape so dry and red that it serves as a stand-in for the planet Mars. There is no water. no vegetation, and no signs of human life for days. Only the rhythmic, industrial thrum of heavy freight hauling copper and white gold, better known as lithium. This is the industrial backbone of the global green energy revolution, operating in a place where time seems to have stood still for eons. It is a quiet, corrosive environment where even basic bacteria struggle to survive in the sterile soil. Along this desolate route, you will pass dozens of perfectly preserved ghost towns where the desert air has kept the wooden stations from rotting for over a century. Long after the last inhabitants fled the crushing silence, Lake Burlinskoye, Russia, deep in the heart of Siberia. There is a body of water that looks as though it belongs on a different planet. Lake Burlinskoye is home to a train that literally drowns itself every day to harvest salt. This Soviet-era operation involves a specialized harvester that scrapes the lake bed while the train wheels submerge completely in water with a salt concentration of 26%, which is higher than even the Dead Sea. As the locomotive enters the surreal, pink-tinted water, it looks like a sinking ship lost to the waves. You can hear the metal scream as the coarse salt crystals grind against the steel chassis in a haunting industrial chorus. It is a visceral vision of total exploitation, where the machine is sacrificed for the sake of the resource. By the time the train exits the water, it has become a stone-hard, natural salt sculpture. And that bizarre pink hue is actually caused by microscopic organisms that are the only things capable of thriving in such a lethal, brine-filled environment. Iron ore train Mauritania, stretching like a massive iron snake across the shifting dunes of the Sahara Desert, is the Mauritania iron ore train. At over 2 kilometers long, with more than 210 individual cars, it remains one of the heaviest and most dangerous transit experiences on the planet. For those seeking the ultimate test of human survival, the 437-mile journey across the burning sands is free, provided you are willing to sit on top of the black ore itself. Under a sun that frequently reaches 120 degrees, with desert winds whipping at 50 miles per hour. Your skin, eyes, and lungs are quickly stained black by the fine dust. It is a raw, primal bucket list journey for those who have abandoned the concept of fear in exchange for a view of the infinite horizon. The scale is so massive that you can stand in the middle of the line and see neither the engine at the front nor the caboose at the back. But without industrial-grade goggles, the fine iron powder can permanently blind a traveler before the trip is even half finished. Maeklong Market, Thailand. In the province of Samut Songkhram, there is a place where daily commerce and heavy rail exist in a state of impossible, rhythmic choreography. The Maeklong Market is a vibrant, crowded bazaar that must fold like origami 8 times every single day as a full-size train rolls directly through its center. Because this market existed long before the railway was ever built, the vendors simply refused to move, choosing instead to adapt their lives to the mechanical schedule of the engine. One moment you are browsing for fresh mangoes, and the next, a whistle blows, and a wall of steel pushes past your face, clearing the produce by just a few centimeters. The air fills with the thick, strange scent of raw fish and diesel fuel in a sensory clash of two different worlds. It is a stunning testament to the stubbornness of the human spirit and our ability to thrive in the most inconvenient of spaces. To survive this encounter, most of the stalls are fitted with secret wheels to allow for a quick retreat. Though many people have met a tragic end here simply by trying to capture a selfie in the path of the oncoming wall of iron. Hanoi Train Street, Vietnam. In the crowded, centuries-old heart of Hanoi's Old Quarter, there is a stretch of track known as the Suicide Corridor. Here, 19th century French engineering meets extreme modern urban density, creating a situation where daily life happens just inches from the steel wheels. As the massive engine approaches, you are forced to stand pressed flat against a stone wall with only 12 to 20 inches of clearance. The intense heat from the engine washes over your skin, and the rhythmic vibration shakes the very teeth in your head, creating an adrenaline rush that you can experience while holding a cup of local coffee. It is a stunning, dangerous collision between ancient architecture and the relentless push of modern transit. While local authorities frequently close the trackside cafes for safety, they almost always find a way to reopen for the next wave of thrill seekers. And the residents have lived here so long, they can identify exactly which train is approaching simply by the unique pitch and groan of the rails beneath their feet. Death Railway, Thailand, Myanmar. Beside the rushing waters of the river Kwai lies a haunting monument to the darkest depths of the human experience. Built during the Second World War by the Japanese military, using the forced labor of Allied prisoners and local workers. The Death Railway earned its name through a grim statistic. 400 human lives were lost for every single mile of track, completed crossing the Whampoa Viaduct. You feel the crushing weight of history as the train creaks over fragile-looking wooden supports that cling to the side of a limestone cliff. It is a somber journey where the beauty of the tropical rainforest is forever scarred by the memory of those who perished in the mud. This structure stands as a testament to both the cruelty of war and the incredible endurance of the human spirit. Historically, thousands of elephants were used to haul the massive timber through the dense jungle when machines failed. And sections of the iconic bridge were actually destroyed by Allied bombers before being painstakingly rebuilt in the years following the conflict. Bishwa Itima Train, Bangladesh. In the heart of Dhaka, the concept of a train carriage is completely redefined during the massive religious pilgrimage known as Bishwa Ijtima. This is the living carpet, a site where more than 10,000 people cling to a single train, creating a mass of humanity that completely obscures the metal beneath. operating at more than 10 times its intended capacity, the train moves through the landscape like a slow, breathing organism with people hanging from every window and perched precariously on the roof. It is a visceral image of both the desperation and the profound faith of the most crowded place on earth. In this chaotic environment, the risk is constant and lethal, as low-hanging, high-voltage power lines and tree branches frequently strike those sitting on the roof. Because the stations are so congested, many passengers have no choice but to jump from the moving roof into the dirt below, while the engine is still at cruising speed, just to ensure they can reach their destination. As the final echo of iron against iron fades into the vast silence of the horizon, we are left with the haunting beauty of these 29 impossible paths. We have watched steel sail across oceans of salt and seen iron climb toward the thin, quiet air of the heavens. These routes are more than mere engineering. They are monuments to a restless human obsession, reminding us how small we are against the ancient scale of nature, yet how fiercely we strive to leave our mark upon it. But the map of the unknown is never truly finished, and the shadows of mystery still dance just beyond the next bend. The tracks may end here, but the journey does not, as the world's most profound secrets are still waiting for a curious soul to find them. Iron ore train Mauritania, stretching like a massive iron snake across the shifting dunes of the Sahara Desert, is the Mauritania iron ore train. At over 2 kilometers long, with more than 210 individual cars, it remains one of the heaviest and most dangerous transit experiences on the planet. For those seeking the ultimate test of human survival, the 437-mile journey across the burning sands is free, provided you are willing to sit on top of the black ore itself. Under a sun that frequently reaches 120 degrees, with desert winds whipping at 50 miles per hour. Your skin, eyes, and lungs are quickly stained black by the fine dust. It is a raw, primal bucket list journey for those who have abandoned the concept of fear in exchange for a view of the infinite horizon. The scale is so massive that you can stand in the middle of the line and see neither the engine at the front nor the caboose at the back. But without industrial-grade goggles, the fine iron powder can permanently blind a traveler before the trip is even half finished. Maeklong Market, Thailand. In the province of Samut Songkhram, there is a place where daily commerce and heavy rail exist in a state of impossible, rhythmic choreography. The Maeklong Market is a vibrant, crowded bazaar that must fold like origami 8 times every single day as a full-size train rolls directly through its center. Because this market existed long before the railway was ever built, the vendors simply refused to move, choosing instead to adapt their lives to the mechanical schedule of the engine. One moment you are browsing for fresh mangoes, and the next, a whistle blows, and a wall of steel pushes past your face, clearing the produce by just a few centimeters. The air fills with the thick, strange scent of raw fish and diesel fuel in a sensory clash of two different worlds. It is a stunning testament to the stubbornness of the human spirit and our ability to thrive in the most inconvenient of spaces. To survive this encounter, most of the stalls are fitted with secret wheels to allow for a quick retreat. Though many people have met a tragic end here simply by trying to capture a selfie in the path of the oncoming wall of iron. Hanoi Train Street, Vietnam. In the crowded, centuries-old heart of Hanoi's Old Quarter, there is a stretch of track known as the Suicide Corridor. Here, 19th century French engineering meets extreme modern urban density, creating a situation where daily life happens just inches from the steel wheels. As the massive engine approaches, you are forced to stand pressed flat against a stone wall with only 12 to 20 inches of clearance. The intense heat from the engine washes over your skin, and the rhythmic vibration shakes the very teeth in your head, creating an adrenaline rush that you can experience while holding a cup of local coffee. It is a stunning, dangerous collision between ancient architecture and the relentless push of modern transit. While local authorities frequently close the trackside cafes for safety, they almost always find a way to reopen for the next wave of thrill seekers. And the residents have lived here so long, they can identify exactly which train is approaching simply by the unique pitch and groan of the rails beneath their feet. Death Railway, Thailand, Myanmar. Beside the rushing waters of the river Kwai lies a haunting monument to the darkest depths of the human experience. Built during the Second World War by the Japanese military, using the forced labor of Allied prisoners and local workers. The Death Railway earned its name through a grim statistic. 400 human lives were lost for every single mile of track, completed crossing the Whampoa Viaduct. You feel the crushing weight of history as the train creaks over fragile-looking wooden supports that cling to the side of a limestone cliff. It is a somber journey where the beauty of the tropical rainforest is forever scarred by the memory of those who perished in the mud. This structure stands as a testament to both the cruelty of war and the incredible endurance of the human spirit. Historically, thousands of elephants were used to haul the massive timber through the dense jungle when machines failed. And sections of the iconic bridge were actually destroyed by Allied bombers before being painstakingly rebuilt in the years following the conflict. Vishwa Ijtima Train, Bangladesh. In the heart of Dhaka, the concept of a train carriage is completely redefined during the massive religious pilgrimage known as Bishwa Ijtima. This is the living carpet, a site where more than 10,000 people cling to a single train, creating a mass of humanity that completely obscures the metal beneath. Operating at more than 10 times its intended capacity, the train moves through the landscape like a slow, breathing organism with people hanging from every window and perched precariously on the roof. It is a visceral image of both the desperation and the profound faith of the most crowded place on earth. In this chaotic environment, the risk is constant and lethal, as low-hanging, high-voltage power lines and tree branches frequently strike those sitting on the roof. Because the stations are so congested, many passengers have no choice but to jump from the moving roof into the dirt below, while the engine is still at cruising speed, just to ensure they can reach their destination.